city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's out the Capitol Hills rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us.
That Dre season is here. A real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz. And I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it
I hate
for
these
us.
average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game. I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers. I'm knocking my own flame. I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your penny line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
On October 23rd, we unveiled the new Converge Media Studios to Stephanie Johnson Tolliver of the Black Heritage Society of Washington State, who along with Damon Brown of Creative Lou, designed our interview wall with epic images of Seattle's Black community of yesteryear from the late Al Smith's photography collection at Mohi. We often speak about our past, our community, our culture, our traditions. Though times have changed for us here in the Emerald City, Converge Media is firmly rooted in our history and grounded in our legacy while focused on the future. We want to say thank you to all of you who support Converge Media. Just know that you are the difference. You made this studio possible, and because of you, we continue to grow and thrive in our purpose. So be on the lookout for new, impactful, and educational programming from Converge Media. And remember, Black media matters. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Update Show, and for sure, Black media matters. My name is Omari Salisbury, flying solo today, this Veterans Day. I want to start off the show, first of all, by acknowledging all of our veterans out there, uplifting you and appreciating you for your service. Man, you know, like they say, all gave some, but some gave all. We got like a compact kind of short show here today. It's a holiday. We ain't gonna keep our director Salman long, but we got a few things. I found a nice clip here, about 5 minutes of the history of Black people in the military here in the U.S. And so we'll pop into that. Then also got a few comments I wanted to make as well about our discussion yesterday around the budget. Got lively all the way through, so I want to acknowledge that. But as first, let's go through as we usually do. Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I want to remind you that right now, yes, right now is a perfect opportunity for you to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people you feel would appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the rainy Emerald City. Want to give a big shout out to our partners over at the South Seattle Emerald and also KBCS 91.3 over at Bellevue College. And that's why we're using these stick mics here so we can get this good audio for them over there on as they broadcast on the radio. I want to remind you as well that you can listen to the Morning Update Show anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, with SoundCloud, Google, Spotify, iTunes. We're on all of them. Just search Converge Media Network, and you'll find all the information right there. Remind everybody that the COVID-19 vaccine is readily available here in King County. We're going to put a link in the comments over there. If you need or want to get vaccinated, you can click the link right there. And I think some people, it's probably time for booster shots. If you've gotten a vaccination and you need a booster, you can click that link and get more information. Also, testing, more and more testing is becoming required for a lot of different things. And so you can get testing information as well. There's a lot of testing sites in Seattle and King County. You can check that. We're going to keep talking about this one right here until the 15th of this month, which is just a few days away. This is the Seattle Relief Program. And Seattle Relief Program is $1,000. It's a one-time thing here, $1,000 for individuals, up to $3,000 for households. And this is, youth, elders, people in arts and culture. If you're having a hard time right now financially, there is some relief funds that are available for you. The website for that is seattlerelief.com, seattlerelief.com. And you want to make sure and check that out. If you're in need, or if you know somebody in need, please get that information to them. It's federal funds, taxpayers' money, so it's people helping people, basically, to take advantage of that. The end date is the 15th of this month. Before I hop into this first segment here, this clip about, let's abbreviate, it's only 5 minutes, but it's the history of Black people in the U.S. military. It's hard to sum up in 5 minutes. It's actually from a few years ago. Want to address some things from yesterday, right? And, it's this discussion about public safety and public safety investment and everything else. And, I got a few takeaways from this. One is we put proper context, because this is true. Like, we were talking about what the mayor had proposed and what city council had cut out of that proposal. And so in our communication, we're saying cut, but in reference to this is what was proposed and cut, and not cut as in existing. So, I always want to be able to clarify some things and be able to represent it properly in its proper context. But like, if you watch the whole show, then you understood that it was in its context. But I cut it out, I clipped it, I tweeted it out, and I used the word cut. And so that the word cut caused a bit of confusion. The program, the city council isn't proposing cutting the program. What they are doing, though, is that the mayor proposed expanding the program, $1.3 million and 6 additional CSOs, and they've cut that out of the mayor's proposal. And that was the context of our overall conversation. But that it opened the door, though, too, for some good conversation on Twitter last night. Good discussions. I try to stay away from things in the Twitter sphere like that, but it's good conversation and good discussions. And people on all sides of this issue kind of chimed in. And you had people, especially on the city council side, and for Councilmember Mosqueda, who chimed in, they're like, well, the council might want to do this, or council might want to do that. And I appreciate those insights. And those were things actually that Kevin Schofield brought up, said, well, they're talking about migrating the CSOs to this new department. And, my comeback for that was like, well, people are dying right now. But so that was brought up. And now something else was interesting was the 30 million. We talked about the 30 million yesterday on Twitter. And some people are saying that, well, the money needs to be put in the community faster. okay, well, that's understandable. But last year, when people were saying, hey, let's not do participatory budgeting, let's put it in faster, it was like, no, let's do participatory budgeting. But government always in flux. So, we'll keep that conversation going. And like I said, I'm thankful for people who agree and disagree with my point of view on that. But one thing that I noticed yesterday, of all these tweets and all these comments and everything else, and people did defend, whether I agree with it or not, people did defend the rationale behind spending here and not spending there. But I ain't getting not one mention, not one tweet, not one message defending the silence that we hear around this issue, especially in gun violence in Seattle. Not one tweet was, man, my council member is on the front line of trying to do this or do that or whatever. My council member is out front trying to address this issue. You know what I'm saying? People defended the numbers, but couldn't nobody defend the silence. And, for me, if you guys know, we've been talking about this. It's funny because somebody was like, oh, Omari's a household name now because of protests or something. But, we got the receipts. And the one thing we've been talking about for years now, at least 3 years, well before protests, well before COVID, was this issue of gun violence. And this is something I'm going to continue to stay on here. And one thing that we've seen has been consistent, and it's very rare that we get people electeds really on to be like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is why you saw King County Council member Zahalai, when he came out and said, hey, we got a blueprint now around COVID. We know if we treat this like a public health emergency, we can do something here. We got a blueprint for it. But what that takes, though, is everybody being on the same messaging. When you want to compare something to COVID, you got to remember that at one point, from the governor all the way down to the dog catcher, they was all on the same message. Wash your hands 20 seconds. You know what I'm saying? And so everything else, it's always been the same message. You got to have buy-in, right? And to combat gun violence here in our city and in our county, we have to have buy-in. And the buy-in is yes, this community needs to buy in. The people who are most impacted, government needs to buy in. Elected officials using their platform, they need to buy in, just like they bought in communication around COVID. They have to buy in to be able to impact gun violence. And so, like I said, I got a lot, and I'm grateful for feedback. I'm one of those people, though, who be on Twitter and these other things. I'm happy. I don't say stuff for people to disagree. I'm not one of these people who just like to argue on the internet or anywhere else. That's not really my stilo. But I'm always thankful when people are like, you know what? Oh, I see this a bit differently than you. And thank you. So I appreciate that feedback. As long as you keep it like respectful, man. But like I said, no one has mentioned anything in defense of the silence. And I think that's the bigger issue. And that's the issue I've been talking about. It doesn't cost anything to acknowledge that people's humanity has been impacted. I mean, you talk about some of these neighborhoods of what's happening there. It don't cost anything. And you got to think, Omari is not sitting here saying, you know what, City Council, you solved the issue of gun violence. Not one time have I said that. What I've said is, hey, you City Council, just act like you care. This is solving the issue of gun violence in our city and across our country is much bigger than any one person, any one city council, any one police force, any one community group. This is a big problem, and it's unrealistic. That's why you've never heard me say that government, especially government, is going to solve all issues around gun violence. But one thing that every elected could do is just act like they care, and if you care, then, man, let's let people know. And I'm amplifying it. And so somebody let Omari know they care. Like, I really be out there. I really be in D2 and D3. And even right here, we're on First Avenue, right by Pioneer Square. There's hella people who've been shot like right across the street. I'm 2 blocks from 7-Eleven. Actually, 7-Eleven's on the next block, huh? We're 1 block from 7-Eleven. Like, you know how many people get shot over there? We're 1 block from Occidental Park. So it's like, yeah, this isn't like vicariously or anything. Or when I'm out in D2 and I'm out in D3 and other places, people are saying that like, yo, they don't feel like the city cares.
They don't feel like people understand what they're going through. My job is to amplify that because they don't have a platform, and I'm amplifying it. So I would say this is that I know for sure, and one thing that I do is that we try to stay here on in Converge is that we're supposed to really speak to people's judgment, whether we made a good decision or bad decision, and not their character. Some of these people, I don't know them well enough to say like, oh, where their character is, and of their decisions, man. So I would say this though, that I'm fairly certain that everybody who's on that city council has compassion, has a willingness to care and concern, right? I'm not going to assume the worst. I'm assuming the best. This is an opportunity for you now, though. It's never too late to activate that in a public capacity. It's never too late to activate that compassion. It's never too late to activate that humanity in a public display. Let these people know. Let our city know. Like, yeah, man, I care. I don't have all the answers. Man, I don't even know what the next steps are. But you know what? I care. I can empathize with you. I can empathize with your loss. I can empathize with a community that's been disrupted here. I can empathize with people who are scared maybe to leave their home right now because, you know, there's gunshots over here or there. Man, that's all we're talking about. That's a great first step. That's a great first step to be like, okay, let me see how I can relate, how we can let people know that we care about them and what they're going through. Because, you know, with COVID, that wasn't hard. It wasn't hard for people to show care and compassion. But with this, sometimes people are quiet. I'm not going to talk y'all to death. I already see I'm like 16 minutes in here in conversation. But, you know, I ain't never got an issue of keeping it real. Open discussion. Anybody want to come on here? If I got it wrong, city council members, if I got it wrong, man, hell yeah, come prove me wrong, because I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong in saying that, like, man, y'all don't care. I want to be wrong in saying that y'all don't forgot about us. I want to be wrong in saying that, like, y'all don't care about our babies and our kids. Man, come prove me wrong, because that's the thing is, man, the platform is yours. You sit here, you go live, pre-record, or whatever. And also, if that hasn't been the case of like, you know what, I haven't done this, we haven't explained better, we haven't, talked to the community like we should, and you want to use this as a jumping off point to do that, we could do that too. So if you got a long list of receipts and we just had it wrong, come bring the bag of receipts and I'll be like, man, this is good. I'm glad that you out there doing it. I'm glad that maybe we've mischaracterized your efforts. I ain't got no problem with that because it ain't about me. It's about the community, right? And if you're looking for a platform or a starting point to talk to community, the floor is yours. You see what I'm saying? Either way, because it's the community that matters most. Not me, not my Twitter, not anything else. It's these grieving parents. It's these people who are scared to leave their home. It's the people who are, man, woken up in the middle of the night with the gunshots and everything else. That's the most important and impactful. And this is why these conversations need to occur. And you got to remember, Converge Media, we just a little engine that could. We the smallest media in this city, the very smallest. And we're amplifying the pleas that we hear on the streets from our people. And, anyways, the door is open. And like I said, this good conversation, and where people put their money, especially a city, is where they put their values. So, we're going to continue to see where the values of the city go. All right. That being said, again, it's Veterans Day here. And I found something. I wanted to be able to, Converge. We always like to be educational here as much as we can. And I found a clip here. It's like 6-7 years old, but it's just kind of like the history of Black people in the U.S. military. I thought it was fitting to play here today on Veterans Day.
One of the first casualties of the War of Independence was Crispus Attucks, a Black merchant seaman killed in the Boston Massacre of 1770. Slaves and free Black men fought together in the Continental Army. But after the Revolution, African Americans were largely barred from serving. Some ignored the ban and fought valiantly in the War of 1812. Among the most famous black units of the Civil War was the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, whose heroic assault on Fort Wagner in South Carolina became legendary for the display of bravery against all odds. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation prompted thousands of freed and escaped slaves to fight in the Union Army and Navy. Their brave efforts helped to defeat slavery and gain the vote for African Americans. After the war, the Army maintained a number of black units. In the West, they helped preserve order on the lawless frontier. Native Americans called them Buffalo Soldiers. Among their feats in the Spanish-American War, the all-black 10th Cavalry Regiment assaulted San Juan Hill. With America's entry into the First World War, heroic units of black soldiers included the 369th Infantry Regiment. Known as the Harlem Hellfighters, they served on the front lines longer than any other American unit. A little over 20 years later, thousands of African Americans served courageously. During the bombing of Pearl Harbor, Dory Miller, an African American Navy steward, manned a machine gun to shoot down Japanese Zeros. African Americans continued to serve heroically during World War II, although in segregated units. Nonetheless, the barriers were slowly being broken. Black women were now able to enlist in the armed forces, and the number of black officers was increasing dramatically. Benjamin O. Davis Sr. had become the country's first African American general in 1940. His son, future Air Force General Benjamin O. Davis Jr., commanded the 332nd Fighter Group, also known as the Tuskegee Airmen. Their outstanding performance helped to bring an end to segregation in the military. In 1948, President Truman issued an executive order directing the military to give all soldiers equal treatment and opportunity.
There is no justifiable reason for discrimination because of ancestry or religion or race or color.
By 1954, the Army had become the first major U.S. institution to integrate. A decade later, during the Vietnam War, blacks and whites made up an integrated fighting force. Joe Wynn is a veteran of the Vietnam era. Joe remembers the early 1970s as a time of challenge and change.
We were coming off of that period of the late 60s, the Black Power movement, peace movement. I would have to say there was racial tension, not only in Vietnam, but at many of the bases stateside as well. We wanted more civil rights, fair and equal opportunities. Same type of individuals who are challenging you at home are challenging you in the military.
After Vietnam, black men and women volunteered in large numbers, and African Americans were rising in the ranks. Samuel Gravely, first African American admiral in the U.S. Navy. Frank E. Peterson, Jr., first African American general in the Marines. Hazel Johnson Brown, first African American female general in the U.S. Army. General Colin Powell's appointment as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff marked a high point in an extraordinary legacy of service. In Operation Desert Storm, he led U.S. Armed Forces to one of the most impressive victories in military history. Today, African Americans continue to reach for new heights, like Captain Vernice Armour, who served in Operation Iraqi Freedom and became the first African American female combat pilot.
My dad was in the military, my grandfather was in the military. I'm also standing on very, very strong shoulders from the people that came before me, black female pilots. Tuskegee Airmen, General Peterson, first black aviator in the Marine Corps.
African Americans have valiantly answered the call to defend our country time and again.
All right, nice video right there. Some historical overview and highlights of black experience in military. I think this is a good clip here to play for Veterans Day. I don't know. I looked at some of the comments, but it's a good video to play for Veterans Day. And it's a lot of people, who don't realize Black people's contribution in the U.S. military, and that's why it's important to take a day like today and be like, no, there's been a contribution there. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to play an oldie but a goodie here. Stand Up Seattle, the Democracy Project. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
It's the Gordon here on Converge Media, giving you that tip you didn't know you needed for Market Street Shoes over in Ballard. Check this out. Not only do they have great shoes for the summertime, but they have the shoes that you didn't even know you needed for the fall and winter. We all know it not only rains and snows a lot out here, so you definitely need those boots, but you also need a little bit of luggage, or at least a bag to put your clothes in, because let's be frank, we all love to get out of here during the fall and winter and go somewhere a little bit warmer. So whether you need accessories, shoes, or a little bit of luggage to jump on that plane, trust and believe Market Street Shoes has everything that you need. You just need to pull up and find it. Hey guys, Besa Gordon here, and guess what? Your girl officially has her first passport, and thanks to my good friends over at Alaska Airlines, my first stamp will be Belize City, Belize. I want you all to follow my journey to Belize, from jumping on Alaska Airlines' inaugural nonstop flight to Belize, to me landing in Belize and literally enjoying the nightlife, the yummy foods, ancient Maya sites, and so much more. I cannot wait to finally experience life outside of the United States. And the simple fact that it's with my Converge Media fam, it just makes it so much better. And plus, it is my birthday month, so you know good and well your girl needed a vacation. This unbelievable excursion is powered by our friends at Alaska Airlines and the Belize Tourism Board. Grab life in Belize.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Today, Veterans Day, flying solo today. I'm really for the rest of the week. Trey Holiday is out of here. Got a video right here. Stand Up Seattle, the Democracy Project. This is the short version, the 5-minute version, not the 20-minute version. But I thought it was good to play today because when we talk about veterans, we talk about democracy and upholding democracy. The exhibit that was at the Museum of History and Industry, it ended, I think, in June or July, but it was the history of people standing up in Seattle and across the state of Washington and standing up in defense of democracy. And so we released this in June 4th, actually on my birthday. So it's not that much oldie, but it's an oldie but a goodie here, and we just talk about the importance of uplifting democracy in our country.
America is a work in progress, and if we don't work, it won't progress. We need to understand, be very clear, that a democracy only works when we work. Everybody has a job to do. We're all stakeholders in this society. Our share is the vote, and we need to take our role as shareholders in this country very seriously.
I think this is an exhibit that really hits people at a personal level. What I learned from this exhibit, and I had to learn it, it wasn't intuitive to me, is that democracy is an unfinished project. Now is the time, I think, for us to remind ourselves that this is a project, we are a part of it, and its success ultimately depends on us. And it requires all of us to be a part of it. It has been, at best, a partial success, and it has a whole lot of failures that we can correct, that we must correct. And to me, the exhibit was revelatory of that.
My entire life, I've always believed that actions speak louder than words. You gotta walk the walk now. Now it's time to go walk, bro. You talked enough, now let's go walk it. What if the city stood up like this for itself? How much change could we affect here? How much change can we get done here if we come out and stand up like this for where we live?
Democracy is everything to me. I think that the United States has that open system. I mean, I've visited other countries. I've been outside of the United States and I've seen it in other ways and forms. And still here in the United States, we have probably one of the best forms of democracy, though it's really hard for us sometimes, and particularly now.
Being in a museum and a repository of history, I think that it's important that people in Seattle realize that the Seattle protest is a chapter in a very long book here in Seattle and in the state of Washington for people standing up. And we're living this chapter right now, so we feel it. It's emotional, it's intense. You know, I'm still living with injuries from the protests.
You can tell me that you believe in me and that you're here for my life. Show me. Show me. What we did was we would march every single day to different parts of Seattle, go to council members' houses, talking to them, getting them to engage with the community that is most impacted by systematic racism.
Democracy is best when we challenge it. When it's under attack, it actually gets stronger. All the protests we saw this summer, all the protests that you read about in this exhibit that go back hundreds of years, they have made democracy live up to its promise. Imperfectly, of course, but there would be no progress without those challenges.
We can't let people forget what happened in Seattle. And I hope that it emboldens those out there younger than us to be prepared to write that next chapter. Because this story, this saga called democracy is continuously being written daily. And I hope that what our city went through last year will inspire people to pick up that pen and continue to write the next chapter of democracy in our city.
We can look at action from sitting down and writing a letter, talking to your neighbor, to being out on the street, you know, with the protest sign, pushing back. So there are all sorts of ways to join this democracy and this effort.
Being able to have that many dialogues with that many council members on the city level, on the county level, it was like, yo, you really can do this. We really can do this. Like, this is a real thing that can happen. Somebody has to stand up for what we're living in. We have the power to change this city, and all it takes is somebody inspiring somebody else to do it. And this is who I gotta be. Whether I like it or not, you know, this is who I have to be in order to ensure that my brothers grow up and die from natural causes, not the police.
We, the people, the citizen stakeholders of this city, this county, and this state, we have to reclaim our power. We have to reclaim our authority. And our chapter is long, our book is long. Our history for standing up is long. Our history of getting beat down is long. But you know what? In the fight for democracy is very much like that phoenix that continues to rise from the ashes. And if there's anything that I want people to take away is study this museum, study these movements, study things that occurred, study advances, and then see what happened when people took their foot off the gas.
Yeah, definitely don't take your foot off the gas. Stand Up Seattle Democracy Project, big shout out. Thank you to Mohai. You know what I'm saying? That was, man, it was something being over there. So yeah, Mohai. And actually, thank you to Mohai too on this iconic interview wall, the Al Smith collection. Majority of these are Al Smith photos. And that collection belongs to the Museum of History and Industry. And some of the photos here from the Black Heritage Society of Washington State. So thank you to both of them. We're going to take a break. When we come back, this was a segment we actually aired earlier this week. We thought it would play it again. Works out well here on Veterans Day. Jarrell Haynes, who's the civil rights officer over in the city of Spokane, Washington. But before that, at the age of 25, while on active duty in the United States Air Force, he ran for school board over in Spokane. So he was serving active duty and a member of the school board
in Spokane. So we're going to tell his story when we come back. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Basic Gordon here on Converge Media, giving you that tip you didn't know you needed for Market Street Shoes over in Ballard. Check this out. Not only do they have great shoes for the summertime, but they have the shoes that you didn't even know you needed for the fall and winter. We all know it not only rains and snows a lot out here, so you definitely need those boots, but you also need a little bit of luggage, or at least a bag to put your clothes in, because let's be frank, we all love to get out of here during the fall and winter and go somewhere a little bit warmer. So whether you need accessories, shoes, or a little bit of luggage to jump on that plane, trust and believe Market Street Shoes has everything that you need. You just need to pull up and find it. Hey guys, Besa Gordon here, and guess what? Your girl officially has her first passport, and thanks to my good friends over at Alaska Airlines, my first stamp will be Belize City, Belize. I want you all to follow my journey to Belize, from jumping on Alaska Airlines' inaugural nonstop flight to Belize, to me landing in Belize and literally enjoying the nightlife, the yummy foods, ancient Maya sites, and so much more. I cannot wait to finally experience life outside of the United States. And the simple fact that it's with my Converge Media fam, it just makes it so much better. And plus, it is my birthday month, so you know good and well your girl needed a vacation. This unbelievable excursion is powered by our friends at Alaska Airlines and the Belize Tourism Board. Grab life in Belize.
All right. Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Veterans Day. Again, my name is Omari Salisbury, flying solo today for the rest of the week. Trey Holiday has the rest of the week off. We aired this story, I believe it was Monday. Was it Monday or was it last Friday? Monday. So this is Jarrell Haynes, and he's from Somerville, South Carolina. Moved to Spokane, Washington when he was stationed there in the U.S. Air Force. And in his efforts there to find a sense of community and making Spokane his home, at the age of 25, he ran for school board there while on active duty in the U.S. Air Force, was elected. He upset a 20-year incumbent in that seat, was elected, and now 7 years later, he's the city of Spokane's very first civil rights officer. So we'll play this clip right now.
I've been in Spokane now for 10 years. I joined the United States Air Force after college. So when I first got my orders, and I saw it was Washington, I just automatically assumed Seattle, and my uncle had been stationed out in Tacoma before, and so I knew a little bit about Seattle. I had a cousin living over there, so I was excited. And then my instructor at the time was like, oh, no, you got it wrong. You're going someplace even better than Seattle. And so, I was wondering where that was in the state of Washington, because I knew no other place other than Olympia, because it's the capital. And he was like, man, Spokane's amazing. And I was like, okay, well, why? What do you like about it? And he was like, well, it snows. I was like, I don't like that. And then he was like, and there's a lot of space for our horses, and I don't have horses. So once I jumped online and looked up Spokane and its demographics and stuff, I saw the lack of diversity here. So I was already pretty disheartened before I ever showed up. I come from a place where community is so near and dear. We call it our village, where no matter where I'm at in town, there's someone who knows my grandparents, and that, oh, you're Melvin's grandboy, or you're Mary's grandson, or you're Sabrina's son. Community is just naturally a part of who I am. And so once I decided to give Spokane a chance, I knew that the only way it would actually work with me being here is to find community too. With the lack of diversity in the area, I looked for my diversity on base. That was the most diverse place out here in Spokane, that and Eastern's campus. So first it was my military community, the family that I built there. And then when I started getting involved in high school coaching and working at the local NAACP, volunteering there, you know, I slowly started to build my community in a bunch of different pockets. You know, started bouncing around from church to church, started building church family all over the city too. So it just kind of started to grow organically. You know, you put love out there, you know, love finds you and embraces you, and I think that's exactly what happened. There was one person on the school board in my local town named Harry Blake, who was a black man who I used to see on the regular because his daughter was in the same grade that I was. And so that was always in the back of my mind. And once I started getting more involved in the city of Spokane and coaching high school football and learning more about our community and our school district, you know, it really started to speak to me a little bit. And then one day at our political action committee at the NAACP, a woman by the name of Jan Baker mentioned that she thinks I should try to run for elected office. And so, you know, I saw school board coming open. So I started to do more research about this local school district and some of the issues that they had. And, you know, it just resonated with me so much. I think we all have these ideas about what these systems should look like and what they should be and how to actually impact and create change. You know, for me, it was a no-brainer. I had all of those doubts, right? I'm a 25-year-old kid, essentially, you know, not from here, no kids here, no kids in the school district. You know, I even heard it on my campaign that, you know, people would ask, you know, what dog do you even have in this fight? You know, and so I wasn't sure if people were going to buy in. And I didn't win the election the first night. You know, it wasn't until night 2 or 3 that I took the lead in the election. It was a really close call. And like I mentioned, it was a 20-year incumbent that I was going against. So the odds were definitely not in my favor in that moment. But, you know, through trust and faith and the support of people all around town, we got it done. The local teachers union helped a lot. I remember having my interview with them and sweating bullets, being so nervous, you know, because they had all of, you know, the educational acumen that I didn't have yet. And they supported me and they rallied behind me and they helped me get out in front of as many people as possible. The black community helped a ton and they have helped support me throughout my entire tenure on the school board. And I am more than appreciative of those relationships and our community, you know, supporting and rallying behind me then and still all the way up until now during some of our most turbulent times. But without a doubt, there was a lot of support from a lot of other communities here. For those next 2 years, man, I was in heaven, you know, getting to serve my nation, you know, being actively involved in this community and getting the opportunity to positively impact the lives of 30,000 students every single day within the city of Spokane. But my contract was coming to an end in the military, and I thought about re-enlisting, but at the same time, they gave me orders to move to England. So in order, you know, to re-enlist, I'd be moving to England, leaving Spokane, leaving the community that I built, and leaving the elected office that I was voted in to serve. And I had to make a really tough choice, and I ended up choosing Spokane over the military, my military career. And, you know, we started doing a lot of different things in the school district, you know, overhauling our discipline policies to decrease arrest rates, to decrease the disproportionality that was associated with those arrest rates. Even though there's so few children of color here in the city of Spokane compared to what I'm used to, students of color were being arrested, suspended, and excluded from class at a much higher rate than any other student in our school district, and that's something that spoke to me very dearly. So that was one of the very first things I really wanted to tackle, and we were able to do that. You know, closing the opportunity gap or the achievement gap with graduation rates. Again, students of color and students of poverty were graduating at a much lower rate in Spokane public schools. We started to attack that, and for 4 straight years now, we've achieved all-time high graduation rates across the board. My journey as a civil rights officer, you know, began as me reading through Frances Scott's bio and seeing the sacrifices that she laid down to try to advance civil rights in the city of Spokane. And so after, you know, it became public that I was no longer running for school board, all of these amazing opportunities, you know, came my way. You know, people were recruiting me to apply for this job, you know, to come work here, to come do this, to come do that. Many of those, you know, making some really good money. And, you know, I just waited for the right opportunity because none of them really spoke to me the way that this did. And so when I first got approached by a city council president about this job, it resonated the same way school board resonated for me 6 years ago. So I thought about it. Then, Cupid Alexander talked to me about it, and then other city council members talked to me about it. Then the mayor talked to me about it. Again, very similar process as when I thought about school board. It just, it happened and it felt right. And I know it's the right thing to do. So that's how it all started. But there's a lot going on in Spokane that I think we can get ahead of, that we're kind of behind on, and kind of playing catch up and responding to complaints and inquiries in regards to civil rights violations that, and not only a position like this, but an office of civil rights in the city of Spokane is long overdue because of all those needs. I am the kind of person that's always looking for the next path, the next goal, the next metric. How do I do more? How do I achieve more? How do I help more? So, no, I don't feel fulfilled yet. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think that would mean I would know what my end goal is, ultimately, and I don't know what that is yet. So when I figure that out, I could probably be able to answer that question better, but today, because I don't know what the end goal is ultimately for my life in its entirety, I don't know if I'll ever actually feel fulfilled.
All right, that was Gerald Haynes, who is the new civil rights officer of the city of Spokane. Like I said, when he ran for office, he was still in the Air Force, served 2 years in the Air Force and as a school board director there in Spokane. Great story out there in Spokane, by the way. I have a big shout out to Lisa Gardner. Lisa Gardner is the director of city council communications there in the city of Spokane, and Lisa's been connecting us with amazing people and amazing stories coming out of Spokane. We got another segment that's going to be out, I think, next week about an organization called Terrain over in Spokane, and they do a lot of arts and culture stuff, some of everything else. All right, told you it'd be a short show today. I hope everybody's enjoyed their Veterans Day. I was looking out there because I was like, man, it's wet. I saw somewhere where it said an atmospheric river of rain is getting ready to come over the city. I'm not even sure what that's going to look like, but we're back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Build It For Us, By Us, Build the Beach. We're talking about the progress there at Rainier Beach High School, what they got going on out there. They're being very intentional about trying to get as many black contractors there on the job there in that project at Rainier Beach. It's, multi-$100 million project, the redevelopment of Rainier Beach High School. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. But on that note, we're going to get out of here for today. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you, Salman. Thank you, brother. And, man, go forward in your purpose. Go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rise.